The dean of conservative columnists and the best writer among them, George Will of the Washington Post, who has been an anti-Trump conservative from the start of the Trump era, which is to say a real conservative, has now published a column opposing Todd Blanche's confirmation as Donald Trump's attorney general. Among the many reasons George Will gives for opposing Todd Blanche's nomination is that Todd Blanche indicted former FBI Director James Comey for, quote, posting a photographs of seashells arranged on a beach. Today, James Comey asked a federal judge to throw out the indictment, accusing him of threatening the president by posting a photo of seashells. Comey was charged in April with threatening the president in a 2025 social media post of seashells spelling out the numbers 8647 in the dismissal motion. James Comey's lawyers write, quote, the indictment alleges that Mr. Comey's 8647 post constitutes a true threat on the president's life. That claim is contradicted by every possible source of meaning, dictionaries, context, precedent, and common sense. Even under the least charitable interpretation of Mr. Comey's statement, it would not constitute a true threat. Joining us now is Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. He's the top Democrat on the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. He also serves in the Senate Finance Committee and the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator, thank you very much for joining us tonight. As a former federal prosecutor, when you look at that photograph of seashells, do you see a federal crime there?
I think if the person who posted that photograph were anyone other than a political enemy and somebody under the skin of Donald Trump, that there'd be any charge coming for this at all. This is, I think, one of the reasons that Todd Blanche is being nominated for the office of Attorney General by Donald Trump. It's because he will debase himself enough to do this kind of an act in order to placate and please his boss.
And this is one of the items on a long list of items that George Will mentions today as a reason to vote against Todd Blanche. And he makes the point that it would only take, depending on Mitch McConnell's attendance, I guess, 4 or 3 Republicans to vote, as George Will put it, in the way that the founders expected senators to vote, as opposed to being completely owned and operated by a president.
Yeah, Will talked about the sludge of self-dealing in the Trump administration and the extent to which the sludgiest sludge, the slush fund, I guess we can now call it the sludge fund, was incubated in Todd Blanche's DOJ. And nobody likes the sludge fund. Nobody much has sympathy for Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. People are furious about the way the Epstein files were handled. And as these things pile up, they make Blanche look more and more like a political liability for senators who are going to have a tough set of races in November. These Republicans are going to own everything that Blanche has done already, screwing up the Epstein investigation, incubating the slush fund, being the first senior Department of Justice official in the history of the United States to be facing an inquiry for having committed fraud upon the court. I mean, and then you have what he'll do between now and November. So the risks are very, very high on the Republican side to sign up for a vote for this guy.
The Supreme Court petition, kind of an emergency petition by Donald Trump to try to carry out his executive order to ban voting by mail. The court gave the 23 attorneys general in different states brought this case. Massachusetts, the lead plaintiff in it, California in it. To prevent Donald Trump from doing this, they've got a week to respond to the Trump petition, but it's the Trump Supreme Court. So what is your guess about what happens there?
Well, I think The Supreme Court has gotten burned by Trump a few times. They gave him completely unconstitutional presidential immunity, and he kind of went nuts with that. They gave him the Calais decision tearing down the Voting Rights Act, and he set loose redistricting messes all over the country that have made the court look terrible because of how they used that order. So the idea that, here it is, July, the election is in November. Some voting is already taking place in states with early primaries. The idea that this Supreme Court wants to change a basic proposition of how many Americans vote while voting has already begun just months before, with a really challenging burden on secretaries of state and elections officials to try to implement whatever decision the court comes up with. If it takes it a couple of months to figure out how to work their way through it and write their decision, I mean, it's really an invitation to have the Supreme Court take a huge self-own and another huge pratfall. And I hope at this point, even the very loyal, very Trump-obedient justices of the Supreme Court, at least those that are, have learned to have a little bit of caution about what you give this guy, because he's going to be pretty abusive with it. And this looks like a real mess for this election. And I don't really have a whole lot of confidence this court wants to own a huge mess and screw up of this election.
And the district court and the appeals court both could not have been clearer in their language about it's just so obvious that the president has no role in elections. The Constitution says so.
Yeah. The only problem is it's also just as obvious that the president has no immunity, because the Constitution says so. It talks about immunity. It only gives it to legislators to protect us from the power of the president. It gives nothing to the president, and yet they cooked it up anyway. So you just have to be very careful about this captured Supreme Court and the extent to which it will do the bidding of the creepy billionaires that built it, and to a certain extent, because those creepy billionaires also support and fund Trump, what Trump wants.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.